Welcome back to the channel. Today we continue our exploration of the default Python Databricks asset bundle, and we have a look at the folder structure. In particular, we look at some of the Databricks specific configurations in the Databricks YAML file and in the resources folder, where you specify such things as workflows and pipelines. We also have a quick look at the Python files that is in the template, and we explore some new Databricks asset bundle CLI commands. Let's get started. First, we will connect to the Databricks workspace. We use Databricks Auth login. We insert the Databricks host. We choose a profile name, and then it will pop up, and we can authenticate directly to our workspace. Once it is authenticated, then we can go into the workspace, and we can see that currently we have no files available. Then we can use the Databricks Bundle Sync. That will basically synchronize the files of the project. So we now have the files in the workspace, but if we also want to deploy the bundle, so setting up the workflows and actually utilizing the Databricks YAML file, the content of that, and the resources that it is referring to, then we need to run the Databricks Bundle Deploy. Once that has been run, the files will resynchronize, but it will also set up the workflows that has been specified in the bundle, if any. It's also possible to run the workflow directly from the Databricks CLI using the Databricks Bundle Run, and it will provide a link to where you can see the initialized run. In this case, we have a job that has two tasks, a notebook task and a main task. So where do they come from? We have to go into resources, into my first project, the YAML file there, and this is where we can see the resources and where the jobs has been defined. And within the jobs section, we can see the task section, and this is where we can see the two tasks. There is a notebook task and there is a main task, and if we navigate to the UI, those are the two tasks we can see here as well. We can also see what is the content of those tasks. Well, the first task is referring to a notebook path in the source folder, so we can try to navigate there and go into the notebook here. We can see that this notebook is a very simple notebook that simply imports the main method here, and then it calls a function called getTaxes and shows the first rows, 10 rows. So let's go into this my first project and see what that does. Well, it imports some PySpark functionality, then it loads from this getTaxes, and then it sets up a Spark session, and then we can call the getTaxes dataset to show some data here. So quite basic. We load some data from a sample data set. Let's go back to the resources file and see how the rest of the file is structured. Let's have a look at the second task first. So that's here, and we can see that this task depends on the notebook task, and we can actually visualize that from the UI as well. If we navigate back to the workspace and go into task, then we can see the notebook task come first, and it's followed by the main task. So main task will not start before the notebook task. So that's how you can use the depends on keyword here. We also set up a cluster, and then it is a so-called Python wheel task. So we specify which package, and we specify which entry point in the package that we will run something from. And then we set up the libraries. Then we have the specification of so these two tasks, what type of cluster do we run on? In this case, I've set up a quite cheap single node cluster using the standard runtime. And we can go back to the UI as well. You can see, okay, this is the compute here, and this is the price. So less than 0.5 dBu hour for this cluster here. We can also see other settings here. There's some job notifications, So let's see if we can find that here in the template as well. So we scroll a bit up. Yes, we have email notification. So if something fails, there will be send an email to me, and there's a periodic trigger, one that triggers every day. Currently that is paused, it's written. So we will get back to that, why it is currently paused, because we don't really see that in the settings file here. While we wait for the job to complete, let's try something else. Let's try to use the Databricks Bundle Deploy again, but this time with the tag -t. This will specify what the so-called target of the deployment, and we can set it to development, for instance. So where does this get specified from? Well, in this case, we need to go into the Databricks YAML file, the main configuration file. So let's have a look at that. First, we have the bundle overall name. So the bundle overall name actually corresponds to the file structure uploaded, like the main folder. Then we have the resources that is included. So that's basically what is within the resources, and then we just include all the YAML files. Then we have the target section. This is where the target will be specified. So we have dev, and we have that this is set to our default mode. So this is what happened before when we used the Databricks Bundle Deploy, because the dev target is default. This was what was running. We also have the mode on line 16. This is actually what is overriding our schedule of the trigger. And on top of that, we also specify which workspace the deployment could take place to. This is the development workspace we have been working on. You can also have multiple settings. So below here I have a production setup as well. In this case, I just have it referring to the same workspace, but the root path is specified to something else. And then I can set up some additional settings, such as permissions and which user to run the job from. All right, so let's see if we can actually use this bundle deploy on the production with the production settings as well. So let's see how that looks like. So it's basically doing all the same stuff that we did on the development environment, but now we use the production settings from the Databricks YAML file instead. So if we go here, now we see also there's a production folder, and it also has a replica of all our project files. And if we go into workflows, we see an additional workflow now. The new workflow does not have a development prefix because the mode is for that one set to production, and we also see that this trigger actually is enabled. So that is basically this mode setting that is changing the behavior of those settings. Now the run of our workflow has finished, so let's have a look at that. So yes, it has the 2 tasks here, and we can see some metadata on it. So here we also have the path and the relationship here between the 2 tasks. We could open the repo to see the underlying folders. We actually also have some additional metadata. So the Git branch is attached to it as well, and we can see that, which is nice. And we can see here, if we go into the individual task, that the task here has run. So it ran the code here, and it actually printed the 10 lines from the data set. We can also have a look at the second task, and that also through the wheel task actually printed the output from the main Python file that we looked at before. Finally, what we might want to do is to clean up what we have created. So in this case, we use the bundle destroy, and again here you specify a specific target. So if we want to bundle destroy the production target, then we specify that. So let's go back and see if the production workflow has been deleted. Yes, it has. Let's go in here, see if the production files has been deleted. Yes, they have. And we can do the same thing from for the development target. In this case, we actually didn't need to specify the target because our dev is the default target. All right, that should be cleaned up as well. Let's have a look at that. All right, so the development folder disappeared. So looks like we are done, and so now we know a bit more about Databricks asset bundles. For instance, how to use the auth, login, and the sync commands, how the Databricks YAML file is structured, how to set up resources, and how to deploy to different deployment targets. I hope this was helpful, and see you in the next video.